The night was alive with chaos. A single streak of fire tore across the heavens, roaring through the atmosphere like a furious comet. The ground trembled under its descent, trees bowing to the shockwave that followed. Ethan shielded his eyes as the blinding light tore the sky apart. Then silence. A heavy, eerie silence that pressed against his chest. The forest had gone still. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. And then came the smell, smoke, metal, and something sharp, electric, like ozone after lightning. He didn't think. His boots sank into the wet soil as he sprinted through the trees toward the plume of smoke rising beyond the ridge. His heart hammered, each breath slicing through the cold night air. He wasn't sure what he was chasing, a meteor maybe, or a crash. The mountain valley was remote, far from any flight paths. Yet the impact he'd seen wasn't like anything human. Branches whipped against his face as he ran. The glow grew brighter with each step, an unnatural blue light flickering through the trees. When he broke through the clearing, his lungs froze. The object lay crumpled in a crater, molten edges hissing against the rain-soaked ground. It wasn't a ship in any way he understood. Its surface shimmered like liquid glass, constantly shifting between colors that didn't exist in the human spectrum. Violet turning into silver, then into something that wasn't a color at all, more like a feeling of awe and fear. He could hear faint hums and distant clicks, like whispers speaking from inside the wreckage. Then he saw movement. A figure crawled out from the shattered hull, dragging itself across the earth. The woman, collapsed onto her side. She was humanoid, but not quite human. Her skin gleamed with a faint metallic sheen, pale as moonlight, but traced with delicate lines of light that pulsed like veins. Her hair floated slightly, as though underwater, shifting with an unseen current. Ethan froze, every instinct screaming at him to run. But then she groaned, a sound so faint and so human that it snapped something inside him. Without thinking, he rushed forward, sliding beside her in the mud. Hey, don't move," he said, his voice trembling. "You're hurt." Her eyes flicked open. They weren't eyes. They were twin orbs of molten gold, flickering like dying stars. She stared at him with a look that wasn't fear, but disbelief. Then she whispered something, not in any language he knew. It sounded like music made of static and sorrow. He didn't understand a word, but he recognized pain. Blood, or something like it, seeped from a wound along her side, thick and silver, glowing faintly in the dark. It dripped down her ribs, steaming as it hit the cold air. "Oh God," he muttered. He tore off his flannel shirt, pressing it against the wound. The fabric hissed as it touched her skin, but she didn't flinch. Her gaze remained locked on him, wide and unreadable. "You shouldn't touch me," she said suddenly, and this time the words were in English. Her voice was low, melodic, but it carried a strange echo, as if two people were speaking through one throat. Ethan froze for half a heartbeat, his hands still on her side. "Yeah, well, if I don't, you're going to bleed out." She blinked slowly, as though weighing his words like foreign currency. "You don't know what I am." He almost laughed, the absurdity of it, the terror and the adrenaline all mixing together. "I can figure that out later. Right now you need—" She suddenly grabbed his wrist. Her touch was ice and fire at once, burning through his skin. "Stop!" Ethan met her gaze, refusing to pull away. "I'm not going to let you die." For a long, tense second, neither of them moved. The rain hissed against the cooling wreckage. Then she released his wrist. Something changed in her expression, not trust but a kind of resignation. "You will regret this," she murmured. He didn't respond. He was already tearing a strip from his undershirt to reinforce the makeshift bandage. The bleeding was slowing, but her breathing was shallow, each exhale glowing faintly in the dark. "What's your name?" he asked softly, trying to keep her conscious. She didn't answer at first. Her gaze drifted upward toward the shattered sky. Then so quietly he almost missed it, she said, "Names have power." "I cannot give mine." "Fine," he said. "Then I'll call you—" "I don't know, Starfall. You fell from the sky, right?" Her lips twitched, almost a smile, though pain shadowed it. "You mock what you don't understand." He shrugged, sitting back on his heels. "Maybe, but I just saved your life, so you'll have to forgive me." Her eyes softened for a moment, as if she was seeing something in him she hadn't expected. "No one saves me," she said quietly. "Not anymore," Ethan frowned. "Well, maybe it's time someone did." The wind picked up suddenly, carrying with it a faint hum, not from the wreck but from the sky. The sound was distant, rhythmic, mechanical. Her eyes widened instantly, her body tensing. "They're coming." "Who?" he asked, turning toward the darkness. She tried to stand, but her legs trembled. "You must leave this place," she said, almost desperate now. "If they find me with you—" She stopped, clutching her side, grimacing. "Hey, slow down," he said, supporting her weight. "You're in no condition to—" "Listen to me," she hissed, grabbing his collar. "You do not understand. They will kill everything to retrieve me." The sound in the distance grew louder, like thunder rolling through metal. Ethan's pulse spiked. "Who the hell are they?" She stared into his eyes, and for the first time he saw fear there, real, raw fear. "Hunters," she said. "Bound to my throne," he blinked. "Your throne?" She exhaled shakily. "I was their ruler, their weapon, their god. But now—" She glanced at her broken ship, her blood-stained hands. "Now I am only prey." Ethan felt his mouth go dry. "You're saying you're some kind of alien queen?" She looked at him, a tired, ancient gaze. "I was an empress once, the galaxy's most powerful warrior. And now I am dying in the hands of a human." He stared at her, trying to process the words. "You're serious?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached up and touched the side of his face with her blood-stained fingers. Her skin shimmered with faint light. "You don't understand what you've done. By touching my blood, you have bound yourself to me." Ethan frowned. "What does that even mean?" Before she could reply, the wreck behind them emitted a deep, resonant pulse. The blue lights flickered violently. She winced, her eyes dimming. "They have my signal. They will come." "Then we need to get you out of here," he said, pulling her arm around his shoulders. She tried to resist, but was too weak. "You are making a mistake." "Yeah," he said grimly, glancing toward the woods. "Wouldn't be my first one." Together they stumbled away from the crash site, her weight heavy against him. The trees swallowed them, shadows flickering under the cold moonlight. Behind them, the wreck crackled and pulsed, sending invisible ripples into the night sky. As they disappeared into the forest, she whispered something under her breath, a name, ancient and alien, like a prayer or a curse. The air around them seemed to shiver at the sound. Ethan didn't hear it clearly, but when he glanced back at her, her eyes were fixed on the stars, wide and distant. "They'll come for me," she said softly, and somewhere deep above the clouds, something stirred, an answering signal in the void. Ethan tightened his grip on her and kept walking, unaware that by saving her, he had just invited the galaxy's deadliest force to his doorstep. By the time the first light of dawn broke through the forest canopy, the smoke from the crash had thinned into a low, ghostly mist. Ethan's cabin stood at the edge of a clearing, small and quiet, a refuge carved out of isolation. It had always been his sanctuary from the world, but that morning it felt like a cage holding something dangerous inside. The woman, the alien, lay on his couch, her strange wounds faintly glowing beneath the bandages he'd wrapped around her. The light beneath her skin pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. Every time he looked at it, he wondered if she was healing or dying. He poured water into a cup, his hands still trembling. It was surreal. Less than 12 hours ago, his biggest concern was fixing the generator. Now, a creature who called herself an Empress was bleeding silver light on his furniture. She stirred as he approached, her eyes opening slowly. Those eyes still unnerved him. No pupils, just two golden orbs that seemed to see everything and nothing at once. "You shouldn't have brought me here," she murmured. Her voice was softer now, weary, yet it carried an authority that made the air feel heavier. "Yeah." "Well," he said, setting the cup beside her, "I figured the middle of the woods was a better place to hide than the middle of a crater. You think you can hide me?" she said with a faint, almost pitying smile. "The stars themselves whisper where I am." Ethan frowned. "You mean your people can track you?" Her gaze shifted to the window, where a shaft of sunlight cut through the mist. "Not my people," she said. My hunters. They will not stop until my body is ash, or my crown reclaimed. He swallowed. Right, hunters, because you're a... what was it again? Empress? Her expression hardened. Once, I commanded legions that could erase worlds. My word was law, my blade. She stopped abruptly, closing her eyes. It doesn't matter. The throne is gone. The empire I built devours itself. Ethan leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. So you're saying you're a galactic dictator on the run? That earned him a sharp glare. I rule to preserve order. The galaxy is chaos without me. And yet, when I fell, none wept. Her words carried a sadness he didn't expect. Something in the way she said it, not pride, not arrogance, but loss, he sighed. Look, whatever you were, you're here now. And you're safe, for the moment. Safe? She echoed, sitting up slowly. You think safety exists after touching the blood of a ruler? Ethan frowned. You mentioned that before. What does it mean? The whole bound to me thing. She hesitated, her gaze flickering to his hands. My blood carries my command. When you touched it, it marked you. Any who serve me, alive or dead, will sense it. They will think you belong to me. He let out a low whistle. So basically, I just got drafted into your cosmic empire. You would be wise not to mock what you don't understand, she warned. I don't understand anything about this, he said, frustration creeping into his voice. You crash here from the sky, you bleed silver, and suddenly there are invisible space soldiers after us. You'll have to forgive me if I'm a little behind on the details. She looked at him for a long time, studying him, as though seeing something new. You're not afraid, she said. Ethan smirked faintly. Oh, I'm terrified, just too tired to show it. That almost drew a smile from her. Small, fleeting, but real. She looked around the cabin, the shelves of books, the crackling fireplace, the mess of tools. This place, it's peaceful. Yeah, he said. I built it to be that way. World's noisy enough without adding to it. She nodded slowly, as if trying to understand a language beyond words. You live alone here? Mostly, he said. Town's about 20 miles out. I get what I need, keep to myself. No one bothers me. Her golden eyes drifted toward the window again. They will, Ethan followed her gaze. The mist was thick, glowing faintly in the sunlight. He thought he saw movement, a flicker of red light deep in the trees. He blinked, and it was gone. You saw it, didn't you? She said softly. He turned to her, startled. What was it? She stood unsteadily, the bandages along her ribs glowing brighter. Scouts, mechanical sentinels. They always come first. The hunters follow. Scouts, he repeated, trying to process. Like drones? More precise, she said, her voice tight. They taste the air, they track by energy residue. My blood, my ship, even my voice leaves a trail. He ran a hand through his hair, heart pounding. Then we need to leave? No, she said sharply. If we run, they will triangulate faster. Movement will expose us, so what do we do? Just sit here and wait for your galactic bounty hunters to show up? She didn't answer. Instead, she moved toward the window, pressing her hand against the glass. The lines of light beneath her skin pulsed, and for a brief moment the world outside shimmered. The air itself seemed to bend around the cabin, distorting the forest beyond. Ethan stepped closer, awed. What did you just do? A veil, she said. It will hide us for a short time. How short? She didn't look back. Hours, maybe less. My strength wanes, Ethan exhaled sharply. Then we better make those hours count. He grabbed his rifle from the wall, checking the magazine. It suddenly felt absurd. A human weapon against whatever she was describing. Still, it made him feel less helpless. She watched him silently, something unreadable in her expression. You fight for a being you do not know, she said quietly. Why? He looked at her, meeting her gaze head on. Because you needed help. That's all that matters. No, she whispered. That's not all that matters. Not anymore. Outside, the faint hum of the forest deepened. The air grew heavy, charged with static. Ethan could feel it. The same sensation he'd felt near the crash site, like invisible electricity crawling over his skin. She straightened, her glowing eyes narrowing. They are near. How many? Too many. The first red light appeared between the trees, then another. Dozens of them drifting silently through the mist. They weren't drones in the traditional sense. They were orbs of dark metal, shifting like liquid, with spines that extended and retracted as they moved. Each emitted a faint pulsating red glow. Ethan backed away from the window. "Tell me that veil of yours works on them. For now," she said, but her tone was grim. "If they detect the anomaly, they will summon the hunters. And what happens when they do?" Her gaze met his, and for a moment the weight of her words felt like a prophecy. "Then you will see what kind of monster you saved." He swallowed hard, gripping his rifle tighter. "You're not a monster," she gave a bitter smile. "You haven't seen me fight." The orbs hovered just beyond the tree line, scanning, whispering mechanical sounds that rippled through the fog. One drew closer, its light flaring brighter. Ethan tensed. "It sees us, doesn't it?" The Empress said nothing. She raised her hand, fingers trembling slightly. The markings on her skin flared white-hot. The air warped, and the nearest drone disintegrated in silence, collapsing into ash that never hit the ground. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "Holy!" She turned toward him, her expression calm but her voice cold. "Now they know I am alive." As if on cue, a thunderous roar rolled through the valley, not thunder but engines. Massive ones. The ground vibrated beneath their feet as shadows blotted out the rising sun. Ethan looked toward the window, eyes wide. "What the hell is that?" She didn't look away from the sky. "The first of them," she said. "The hunters." And as the sky darkened under the descending ships, Ethan realized that helping her wasn't just a mistake. It was the beginning of something much larger than he could ever imagine. The sound hit first, a deep, vibrating hum that made the glass in the cabin shiver. Ethan's pulse quickened. Outside, the morning light fractured into streaks as something enormous descended through the clouds. The air smelled of ozone again, thick and metallic. He could feel it crawling across his skin, like static before a storm. The Empress was already on her feet, her pale form bathed in the faint glow of her veins. The light was brighter now, spreading up her neck and across her arms like fire in frozen glass. She stood perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the door. "They found us," she whispered. Ethan gripped his rifle, though the weapon suddenly felt like a child's toy in his hands. "Can you, I don't know, use that energy thing again?" "Hide us?" She shook her head slowly. "It's too late. The veil is broken." Through the window, Ethan caught a glimpse of the forest bending unnaturally, the trees bowing as if under invisible pressure. Something was moving between them, figures in black armor, gliding more than walking. Their bodies were sleek, segmented like living machines. Each one carried a weapon that pulsed with a soft red glow. And where their faces should have been, there was only smooth, featureless metal. He counted at least a dozen before he stopped trying. The Empress turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Stay behind me." "Like hell," he muttered, her gaze sharpened. "Ethan, do as I say." There was no time to argue. The front door exploded inward, splinters flying like shrapnel. The sound was deafening. Smoke poured in thick and acrid. Through it, the soldiers advanced, moving with precise mechanical coordination. "Target acquired," one of them said in a voice that wasn't quite human, distorted, layered with static. "Designation, Empress Variath. Order 7C, retrieval dead or disassembled." Ethan raised his rifle and fired instinctively. The bullet pinged off one of their helmets with a useless metallic clink. The creature didn't even flinch. The Empress moved before he could react. 1 second she was standing still, and the next she was a blur of motion, faster than thought. She struck the nearest soldier with her bare hand, and he erupted into a wave of light, disintegrating without a sound. The others opened fire immediately, streams of red plasma ripping through the cabin walls. Ethan dove behind the overturned table, wood splintering above him. Heat scorched his back. He peeked up just long enough to see her, moving through the chaos like a storm given form. Each step she took left trails of energy crackling in the air. She didn't dodge the attacks. She bent them. Bolts of plasma twisted around her body, curving back toward their origin, vaporizing her attackers in flashes of white flame. He could barely comprehend what he was seeing. The frail, wounded woman he had carried through the forest was gone. In her place stood something ancient and terrifying, her body glowing brighter with every motion. The air itself seemed to obey her. Within seconds the cabin was gone, walls torn apart, roof shredded, smoke rising from a crater where it once stood. Ethan stumbled to his feet, coughing. The Empress stood at the center of the ruin, surrounded by the bodies, or what was left of them, of her hunters. Her breath came in slow, deliberate rhythm. The rain sizzled as it touched her skin. Then from the tree line, another voice echoed, low, resonant, commanding. "You disappoint us, my queen." Ethan turned, heart hammering. A figure stepped from the shadows, towering and cloaked in armor blacker than night. Unlike the others, this one was alive, flesh and machine fused seamlessly. His eyes glowed faintly blue. He carried no weapon, yet the ground seemed to quake with each step. The Empress's expression darkened. "General Corps," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "Do you still crawl in the service of a dead empire?" "I serve what remains," the general replied. "The galaxy burns without you. Your throne calls for its rightful master. I am no longer your master," she spat. "You betrayed me. You left us," he said simply. "You vanished, and the galaxy descended into chaos. You could have ruled forever, but you fled. You fell." Ethan looked between them, utterly lost. "What the hell is going on?" Neither of them answered. The air crackled with invisible power. The general extended his hand, palm glowing with eerie blue light. "Come willingly, and the suffering will end. Resist, and your legacy will end in ashes." The Empress straightened, her voice like steel. "Then let the ashes fall." The world exploded. Light burst outward from her in a wave of raw energy, flattening everything in its path. Trees bent backward, earth cracked open. Ethan was thrown to the ground, ears ringing, vision white. He heard the sound of metal screaming, armor melting, engines dying. When he finally managed to lift his head, the general stood locked in combat with her. It was like watching gods fight. Every movement was a blur, every strike a thunderclap. Their blows shattered stone, tore through the ground, sent shockwaves through the forest. Energy bled from both of them, hers gold, his blue, colliding in violent bursts that painted the morning sky in alien colors. Ethan stumbled backward, shielding his face from the heat. His mind screamed at him to run, but his legs refused. He couldn't look away. The general caught her by the throat, slamming her into the ground. "You are weakened," he said, pressing his hand against her chest. "You cannot win." Her eyes flared. "I do not need to win," she whispered. "Only to remind you who I am." A sudden flash, brighter than lightning. For a second, everything went silent. Then came the explosion. The general was hurled backward, his armor disintegrating mid-air. He hit the ground and didn't move. The Empress stood shakily, her body trembling, light flickering unevenly across her skin. The forest around them burned in silence, smoke coiling into the sky. Ethan ran to her, heart pounding. Hey, are you okay?" She turned toward him slowly. Her face was pale, her eyes dim. "You shouldn't have helped me," she said softly. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "You'd be dead if I hadn't—" "You don't understand," she interrupted, her voice breaking slightly. "You have my mark. They will come for you now, too." He stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. "Then let them come," he said. "We'll fight them together." She gave a faint, almost sorrowful smile. "You would die before you even understood what you stood against." Her body flickered, like a dying flame struggling to stay lit. "I drew too much power," she whispered. "The bond between us, it's stabilizing me, but it's also binding you to the fate of my enemies." Ethan shook his head. "Then we'll figure it out. You're not alone." She looked at him, truly looked, as if seeing him for the first time. "Humans," she said softly. "So fragile and yet so willing." Her knees gave out, and Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was still hot to the touch, pulsing faintly under his fingers. Around them the forest smoldered, a wasteland of ash and twisted metal. The general's body twitched once and then dissolved into blue mist, carried away by the wind. Ethan glanced up at the sky. Far above, through the smoke and clouds, faint shapes moved, vast angular silhouettes blotting out the sun. More of them. He muttered. The Empress nodded weakly. The Legion will not stop. They will burn this world to reclaim what was lost. He tightened his grip on her. Then we don't stay here. She looked up at him, golden eyes faintly glowing again. If you come with me, you will never return to this world. Ethan exhaled. It's not much of a world left, is it? For a moment, something softened in her expression. A trace of gratitude, maybe even affection. You're a fool, she whispered. He smiled faintly. Yeah, but I'm your fool. Above them, the largest ship descended, its shadow swallowing the forest whole. And in that moment, under the burning sky, Ethan realized that the line between saving her and dooming himself had already vanished. And there was no turning back. Smoke curled into the bruised sky, thick and acrid, rising from what was once Ethan's home. The air was heavy with the scent of burned earth and melted metal. The forest that had once sung with life now stood silent, a graveyard of charred stumps and twisted debris. The sky itself seemed darker, tainted by the battle's lingering energy. Ethan woke to the sound of the wind sighing through the ruins. Every muscle in his body screamed in protest. His vision swam, and when it cleared, he saw her standing among the wreckage, tall, radiant, and terrible. The Empress's armor was reforming itself, flowing over her body like liquid light, hardening into a black and gold sheen that shimmered with energy. Around her, the corpses of her enemies had already begun to decay into dust, their remnants scattering like ash on the wind. He struggled to sit up. You did this? Her head turned slowly toward him. The golden light in her eyes flickered, dimmer now, but still burning with a power that made the air hum. They left me no choice, she said softly. Her voice carried the weight of sorrow and command in equal measure. They would have burned this world to find me. I ended it first. Ethan swallowed, glancing around at what was left of the forest. You ended everything. Her expression didn't change. Yes. He pushed himself to his feet, staggering slightly. People live near here. Miles away, sure, but they will survive, she interrupted. The wave was contained. He laughed bitterly, the sound hollow against the silence. You talk about destruction like it's just... Math contained, controlled. You killed them without blinking. Her gaze darkened. You think I wanted this? She said quietly. Do you think I wanted to become this monster again? The anger in her tone vanished almost immediately, replaced by exhaustion. She looked away, toward the rising light of the twin suns that now pierced through the thick clouds. I was free for one night, she whispered. One night to remember what peace felt like. Ethan stared at her, unsure what to say. Her armor caught the dawn, making her look both divine and haunted. He remembered how fragile she had seemed when he first found her, wounded, lost, barely clinging to life. But now she looked like something beyond comprehension, not a woman, not even a queen, but a being made of light and fury. She turned to him suddenly. You saved me, she said. Her tone was gentler now, almost human. No one has ever done that before. In my world, mercy is weakness. I didn't do it for mercy, he said. I did it because it was right. Her lips curved into a faint, melancholy smile. Right, she murmured. That word doesn't mean the same thing where I come from. A low rumble rolled across the sky. Ethan looked up and froze. Far beyond the clouds, something immense moved. Not one ship this time, but many. Dark silhouettes glided through the heavens like predators. They're not done, he said quietly. No, she replied. They never will be. As long as I live, they will hunt. Then we have to run, she shook her head. Run where, Ethan? Every world in the Empire knows my signal. Every sun I've touched burns with my mark. There is no place in this galaxy untouched by my name. He stepped closer to her, his voice firm. Then we find one that is. Her eyes softened, a rare, fleeting tenderness breaking through the divine coldness. You speak as if it were simple. It's not, he admitted. But I can't just watch them kill you. Not after everything. Her expression faltered, and for a moment the Empress vanished, replaced by something almost fragile. You don't understand what you're offering, she whispered. If you come with me, you will be marked forever. The bond between us is sealed. You will age slower, think differently. The galaxy will know you as mine. He didn't hesitate. Then I'm yours. The words seemed to strike her like a blow. She blinked, the faintest tremor running through her. "You don't know what that means." "Doesn't matter," he said. "You're not alone anymore." For a heartbeat, silence. Then she closed her eyes and exhaled, the faint glow around her dimming. "You're a strange creature, Ethan. Fragile, yet fearless." She looked to the sky again. The shadows of the ships grew clearer, dozens of them, forming a net of light and darkness. "They are preparing to fire," she said softly. "If I stay here, this world will die. Then we leave," he said again. She turned to him, her eyes burning brighter now, the gold in them molten with decision. "There is a ship buried beneath the crater. It can fly," Ethan nodded. "Then let's go." Together they moved through the wreckage. She walked ahead, her steps graceful despite her exhaustion, the light from her body casting strange reflections on the scorched earth. Ethan followed close behind, his chest tightening as he took one last look at the ruins of his home. The cabin where he'd spent years alone, the trees that had sheltered him, all gone, his past reduced to ashes. At the crater she knelt and pressed her palm to the ground. The soil rippled like water. A hum filled the air, and then a massive structure rose slowly from beneath the earth, sleek, obsidian, and curved like the wing of some colossal bird. It shimmered faintly, powered by energies Ethan couldn't even name. This is your ship," he breathed. "One of them," she said quietly. "A relic of my reign." The hatch opened soundlessly. Inside, the vessel glowed with a pale light, alive and humming with sentience. Ethan hesitated at the threshold. "If I go in there," he said, "I'm not coming back, am I?" She met his eyes. "No," he exhaled slowly. "Then I guess Earth will have to find another fool." That made her almost smile. She extended her hand. "Then come with me, human." He took it. Her hand was warm, warmer than human skin should be, and as soon as their fingers touched, a surge of light ran through him. For a moment he saw things, vast cities floating in the dark, planets burning like embers, armies kneeling before a throne of light. He felt her memories rush through him, her triumphs, her losses, her loneliness across 1,000 lifetimes. Then it was gone. The ship lifted off silently, rising through the burning air. The ground below shrank, the devastation spreading out in all directions. As they broke through the clouds, the fleet above turned toward them. Hundreds of dark warships forming a blockade that blotted out the stars. "Can you fight them?" Ethan asked, gripping the edge of the console. "I can destroy them," she said. "But it would mean burning half the system." "Then don't," he said. "Just get us through." Her fingers brushed across the console, and the ship responded instantly. The world around them folded, light bending, stars smearing into streaks. Ethan felt his stomach twist as reality itself seemed to warp. "Hold on," she said softly. The fleet fired, hundreds of plasma beams cutting across the void, but none reached them. The ship vanished into a flash of white light, slipping through space like a whisper. Silence followed. The hum of the engines faded to a steady pulse. Through the glass canopy, Ethan saw stars again. Not the ones he knew, but distant alien constellations. He stared, awed and terrified. Where are we?" he asked. She turned to him, her golden eyes reflecting starlight. "Nowhere yet," she said. "Everywhere soon." He sank into the seat beside her, still catching his breath. "So what happens now?" She looked out into the endless dark. "Now the galaxy will learn a new story," she said softly. "That its lost Empress lives. And that she has chosen a human." He smiled faintly. "Doesn't sound like much of a legend." Her gaze lingered on him, gentle and fierce at once. "Legends don't begin as legends," she said. "They begin with choices." Outside, the ship glided through the stars, leaving a trail of gold in its wake. Behind them, Earth was nothing but a pale spark fading into infinity. And somewhere among those endless stars, a new story had begun, of the man who healed a god and vanished into her light, never to be seen by mankind again.